thing. Legends contracts only require wrestlers like Sting and Brock Lesnar, per se, to show up every 3 to 4 months and wrestle once or twice a year. And the ratings are not going to go up higher all the time because Sting and Brock Lesnar are wrestling once or twice a year. In order to have the ratings at an all-time high, you have to have people like Sting and Brock Lesnar showing up and wrestling all the time. You had to have them wrestling on TV shows with Randy Orton and John Cena, as opposed to just wrestling at major pay-per-views like WrestleManias and SummerSlams. If you do that for WrestleMania and SummerSlam, yes, the pay-per-view buy rates and the television ratings are going to hit an all-time high. But if you take people like The Undertaker, Sting, and Brock Lesnar off television and substitute that with a match like John Cena versus Bray Wyatt, or Chris Jericho making a scattered appearance to wrestle against someone like Bray Wyatt or someone Paul Heyman is representing, the ratings are not going to be as high as what you would expect them to be or want them to be. So there are a number of contributing factors at the end of the day when it's all said and done as to why these ratings are at a record low. And it doesn't surprise me at all that the ratings are at a record low. If you're wondering to yourself, Jonathan Clarke, what is your opinion of these ratings reports that we've been seeing about Monday Night Raw, especially, and Friday Night SmackDown, or Thursday Night SmackDown as it's called now, the TV series? I'm not surprised at all that the ratings have hit an all-time low, because we're seeing the same thing all the time, very repetitively, on Raw and SmackDown. If we had more superstars and we had different matches week in and week out with different superstars, as opposed to a 2-on-3 handicap match once every 2 to 3 weeks, I mean, we'd probably be seeing higher ratings. But as long as we see 2-on-3 handicap matches, 3-on-4 handicap matches, cage matches, no holds barred matches, no disqualification matches, what have you, week after week after week with the same 4 or 5, 6 wrestlers, then the ratings are still going to remain low. But if we change it up with different wrestlers and we have different storylines on both Raw and SmackDown, all WWE programming just in general, then obviously we're going to see the ratings go up higher than what they have been. But until we see that, the ratings are going to remain at a record low. It doesn't surprise me at all. If I were to come on here and put this over as, being something amazing that Triple H and Stephanie have done, I'd even be surprised. There's more criticism that can be thrown the way of Stephanie and Triple H than what I would like to admit to. I could be on here for hours on end criticizing Stephanie and Triple H for how they ran the business, how they claim that nobody knows anything about the politics of the professional wrestling business, which is utter bullshit in my opinion. It really amazes me how they still believe, after all these years, with how many advances we have out there for following the product from 1999 to now, that they still believe we don't understand anything about politics with professional wrestling. I mean, it's very advanced. There's more advanced ways, more advancements in ways of following the product now, because we have more spoilers and we have more advanced news websites with more advanced betas and everything to follow the product with. So obviously we know something more about the professional wrestling business than we did back in 1999. It's very different. There are very different ways of following the product than there were back in 1998, 1999. We have more of a resourceful world out there now to follow the wrestling world with. If this were still 1999, then I could understand why Triple H believed that we knew nothing about the professional wrestling business in the way of politics. But now, in 2015, with so many advancements in technology we have out there, we have apps, we have cell phones, we have tablets, we have so many different ways to follow the product now. We obviously have come into a sense of understanding of the professional wrestling business, especially for someone who's followed the product for 10 or 15 years. And, for a while there, I thought Triple H was coming out and shooting on me directly. He was making a point to shoot on how I had covered the professional wrestling business, speaking from the perspective of a radio host and columnist for the better part of the last 10, 15 years, always making a habit, somewhat of a religious habit, of following the wrestling product. For a while there, I thought he was making a point to reference me in a promo with Booker T. I posted, a lot of thoughts on that in columns in this corner with Jonathan Clarke, but I never spoke on it directly. But here are my thoughts on it pretty bluntly for you. I think he's a piece of shit for going out there and referring to wrestling fans as people who don't know anything about the wrestling business in the way of a product or politics, because there are so many wrestling fans out there that deserve credit for knowing so much about the wrestling business. There are so many wrestling fans out there that I venture to say even know more about the wrestling business than what I do, and I've been following it my entire life. Someone nowadays who's been only following the product for 1 or 2 years know more about a wrestling fan who may have been following it for 15 years, and it's because of how many advances and how many resources we have out there in the way of apps, cell phones, tablets, whatever. Everybody has some way of getting access to the internet. Now everybody knows something about something they love, and more so than what they probably would have known 10 years ago. So I don't think that everybody is just clueless about what happens in the way of politics. Everybody who's a wrestling fan now, in this day and age, knows something about politics, with professional wrestling. Now, in this business, there's always something new to learn. There's never going to be a day when you know 100% of everything that happens behind closed doors in professional wrestling, because there's always some kind of political issue that happens with professional wrestling, and there's always some kind of, negativity that happens with professional wrestling that we never do hear about until it's publicized by a professional wrestling news website, which the majority of everything that happens is eventually posted on a website like ProWrestling.com or ProWrestling.net or PW Insider. But here's the thing, there's always something to learn, and there's never going to be a day where you're never going to know everything about professional wrestling, because there's always something new popping up or always something arising with professional wrestling. So maybe, I can get away with, rephrasing what Triple H said in this promo with Booker T a couple of weeks prior to WrestleMania 31, when he referred to fans not knowing anything about the politics of professional wrestling. He said that nobody had a clue what really happens with professional wrestling. They don't know a damn thing about the wrestling business. Maybe I can rephrase that by saying, they're never going to know everything about the professional wrestling business. There'll never be a day when you know everything, but you'll always know something in the way of political issues because of these professional wrestling news websites. You take these professional wrestling news websites away, which you're never going to do, then wrestling fans will be kind of clueless about what happens with professional wrestling. But to say that we don't know anything about political issues with professional wrestling, I think that's a bit outrageous even for Triple H to say. He's probably the only one who believes that the wrestlers know anything about politics, but the thing is, more cases than enough, it's been proven that wrestling fans know more about political issues that go on behind closed doors with professional wrestling, especially if they've been exposed to the independent circuit. Because on the independent circuit, ladies and gentlemen, you will find out more about professional wrestling than probably you ever wanted to know about professional wrestling. I've been following the professional wrestling business and been involved with the independent circuit for years, and I've met a lot of wrestlers through the independent circuit. And if not for the independent wrestling circuit, I probably would have never come to know anything about the professional wrestling business in the way of political issues. And I thank everybody who's been involved with the independent wrestling circuit for allowing me behind these closed doors and being able to document everything that happens in terms of political issues. Because through the independent wrestling circuit, I found out a lot about people that I idolized from my childhood, like Jake the Snake Roberts and his crack addiction. Everything that happened with the Ultimate Warrior was another thing. Doink the Clown battling his personal demons. I found out so much about the professional wrestling business through being able to go behind the closed doors because of the independent wrestling circuit. Just as you eliminated the territories, you might want to think about eliminating the independent wrestling circuit if you want to kayfabe everything about the professional wrestling business in the way of political issues and keep it that way. Because as long as things like the independent wrestling circuit exist and websites like ProWrestling.com and .net exist and are still out there, then everybody's going to have a way of finding out political issues about professional wrestling, finding out about it, and understanding so much about it. But I think what Triple H said can be rephrased, because you may never know everything about the professional wrestling business because there's always going to be something new to learn. But I think that everybody knows something about the wrestling business in the way of politics. Maybe he just said that. Maybe he realizes that somewhere in the depths of his mind, somewhere in the back of his mind, he knows that we realize that. But he's just trying to do that to get on our nerves. And obviously he got on the nerves of me. That's why I'm shooting on him this week on our show. It doesn't change how I feel about Triple H. I will not take exception to what he said, and I will just get on with my life. But the thing is, I still think he's a piece of shit. And I think that Triple H is just someone who's been handed everything in the professional wrestling business. I mean, what more is there to say about someone like Triple H, that he earned everything that he got in professional wrestling? He looked at Vince McMahon in 1995 and wanted an opportunity, and we're supposed to believe as wrestling fans that actually in 1995 he went to Vince McMahon and wanted an opportunity. The reason why he went to Vince McMahon is because WCW's power plant wanted nothing to do with him back in 1992. William Regal didn't think he was going to get anywhere when he was under the tutelage of Regal. Regal was one of the most experienced veterans in the wrestling business, so obviously he knew something about the wrestling business and what it takes to make it in the wrestling business. And the ultimate reason why he went to WWE and Vince McMahon is because World Championship Wrestling, who were on their way to the top of the wrestling business and had acquired so much talent from the 1980s that Vince McMahon had distributed. They purchased the talent and redistributed them in the 1980s, and by 1991, 1992, they realized they were in a position to almost take over and go to the top of the wrestling business so they could get away with firing Triple H. And that's the reason why they let people like Triple H and Rob Van Dam go to other wrestling companies, because they knew that Triple H and Rob Van Dam were names that were never going to make it in World Championship Wrestling. And what WWE were doing back in the early 90s were trying to recreate a new generation of wrestlers like the Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Razor Ramones, and Kevin Nash, who left years after for World Championship Wrestling. So Vince McMahon took Triple H under his wing. Triple H looked at him and said, I want an opportunity. He got that opportunity, and he took advantage of that opportunity. And if he never did take advantage of that opportunity, I mean, where would he be now in 2015? Currently, right now, he's the COO, and Stephanie is one of the principal owners of WWE. But I mean, how long is it going to last before wrestling fans get frustrated enough and we see the ratings declining all the time? We're seeing the ratings go up a little bit, and the numbers of downloads on things like the apps and the mobile games going up all the time. But I mean, when your ratings are at all-time lows all the time, I mean, you had to have a board meeting. You have to say, what can we do to correct these issues? Because obviously these issues have to be noticed by the creative team. They have to be saying in these board meetings that they're having with 50 to 60 people all the time, saying, there's something wrong with the ratings here. What are we doing wrong? Let's correct it. That's what needs to be done. We need to correct. They need to correct as a board, as a creative team, the issues with the ratings, because really, I don't see the ratings going up anytime soon. And I don't blame the professional wrestling news websites for having documented the ratings being at all-time lows, record lows, as they're saying, on websites like ProWrestling.com and ProWrestling.net as much as what they have been, because there's no denying or covering up the fact the ratings have been low. Yes, Sting, Triple H, and Brock Lesnar may be thinking they're doing something for the ratings in the way of getting them up. We're seeing that slight rise in the ratings, but as soon as we see the slight rise in the ratings in terms of statistics, we're always seeing that slight decline in the ratings. There's always a fan who comes up with a reason or an excuse more so to turn off Raw or SmackDown, because Raw or SmackDown isn't offering what we want to see in the way of a product. If you want my opinion on what's offering us something in the way of a product, it's the fucking Divas division. And that's why I talk about the Divas division so much like I do on our Facebook page, on our Twitter, on our YouTube, and on Google Plus, and on this radio show. It's because the fucking Divas division is really the only thing that's offering us something in the way of a product. I mean, who out there wants to see someone like Seth Rollins eventually going to cash in the briefcase and become WWE World Champion? I mean, he's not the look of a champion. He may be being put over as the future in the eyes of the authority, but really, is he someone who you want to see as champion for 5 to 6 months? Fuck no. You want to see someone like The Undertaker. I mean, let's face facts. You want to see someone like The Undertaker and Brock Lesnar as champion all the time and dominating day